Hello, young titans. Mr. Cier here. I'm going to today show you how to start your fantasy landscape project, and to do so we are going to use Photoshop. So I'm going to double click my Photoshop icon. It may start off for some of you showing your toolbar and your application frame and your options area, but it still shows your desktop, which you're like, oh no, is this working? It is working. As long as the word Photoshop is there, that means it's open. So we're going to go to File, New from this point, and when this comes up, you're going to type things just the way I tell you. It's also noted under whiteboard, so if you look at the whiteboard, it'll tell you. I'm gonna call this my Fantasy Landscape Project 1, Part 1. And my first name is Mr. My last initial is C. And I'm gonna be in grade 99 for this project. You could be in whatever grade you're really in. The next step is to change this to inches before I type in my numbers, otherwise they'll change when I correct this later. And I want my numbers to be the same as on my whiteboard, which is 11 for the width, 8.5 for the height, and 150 for the resolution. We're not going to change anything else. So once we have those four things changed, we're going to go to press OK, and we'll have a nice sheet of paper. Just so you know, we're going to be working on a landscape collage, so I wanted to start by looking at this traditional photograph of a landscape. So you can see in this layered landscape, I have some mountains, I have some hills, I have some trees, and a big tree up front, and I have a ground. So we're going to have at least that many layers in our landscape, and we also have the sky, by the way. Now the farthest thing back is usually the highest thing on your page, so that's why the sky is really the farthest thing back, and the mountains would be next farthest. We can also see that things overlap things, so the fact that the mountain overlaps the sky, or the hills overlap the mountain, or the trees overlap this hill, shows us the order that we'd come into if we were walking into the bottom of the drawing. So we're going to make a landscape, but our landscape can't include these things because we need to make our own landscape, and we're going to do it out of much more fun and interesting things. So I'm going to put these side by side. So you can see that in this picture, the artist, namely Mr. Cier, made some chocolate candy bar mountains here. And the way that I did that is I got pictures from the internet. Now the reason that we're not making traditional landscapes is because if we take a picture from the internet, we can't use it in the same way according to copyright law as the original artist intended. So if we take pictures of mountains and use them as mountains, that's the same thing as stealing the other person's picture and disobeying the copyright law. So we're going to use the copyright law rules, which state that if we use something in a way that the artist did not intend, we could use it, his work. So we're going to use this photographer's picture of a candy bar, and we're going to use it to represent a mountain in our piece. So the reason that I chose candy bars is because mountains have that kind of like pointy feel or triangular feel. So I wanted to use something with a corner to represent those the feelings of a triangle. Now you might say in the grass or the clouds, those things don't really have a shape. Like this looks like a rectangle of grass, and this looks like, well, it looks kind of like clouds, but there's no shape that says this is what a cloud is definitely shaped like. So the way that I represented them is by picking something the same color. So your first and best bet is to pick something that represents your shape, but if you can't do that for some reason, you would want to pick something that represents the color of that object to make it clear that this is grass and this is these are clouds. All right, so the next step is to go to, I'm going to shut these down. We're going to keep our Photoshop open, and we're also going to open Safari at the same time. I'm going to move my Safari folder over a little bit, or my Safari window, I'm sorry, over a little bit, so that I could see both at the same time, and there's a really important reason for this. So I'm going to the Google to find me some pictures that look like triangles of things that are not mountains. I thought to myself of some things that I find in real life that are triangular. So we can't use cartoons, by the way. Like if you can't use SpongeBob to represent your mountain, even though he's a square. The problem with that is he's already owned by somebody. He's copywritten. There's no way that we could use him at all, even if he's representing something else. We can't use him in a way that we can publish. So I thought of something very common. It's the shape of a Dorito. We wouldn't be able to use this logo because it's trademarked. However, a photograph of the Dorito is something that we can use without problems with copyright laws. Alright, so I found a Dorito that's perfectly a triangle. It's going to represent my mountains. Now, of course, not all mountains are the same, so you don't have to have something that's perfectly a triangle, but this will work. So when I find the picture I want, I open it so it's full size by clicking it, and then I just drag it literally directly into my work. I'm not saving it to my desktop because that's going to cause you extra steps. So when you find the picture that you want, you're literally just clicking and dragging it over. So I'm going to use my move tool to move this around and show you what I have here. So I currently have my mountain, and by the way, it's always the easiest if you start from the farthest thing back and then move forward in your piece. So now that I have my mountains, I'm going to work with my mountains. I'm going to press Command T to transform it so I can make it this the size that I want. And then I'm going to move it into place. Now what we don't realize, I'm going to go to my background for a moment and throw some paint in there so you can see what I'm talking about. What we don't realize is if I'm on my background layer and I make that black, that the Dorito actually has a white background to it in the picture that I got off the internet. So to get rid of that, we're going to use our magic wand tool, and you may have to look underneath this tool right here. If it shows the quick selection tool, you want to hold the button down to access the magic wand tool and then click the white space. If you click the white space, it'll all become selected. That's what that dotted line means, that we have this white space selected. And when I press the delete key on my keyboard, you can see that that all goes away. Okay, so I don't want my background to be black. I'm going to take that out. Checkerboard represents clear in Photoshop, so that's what that means. So I'm now going to press Command D to deselect, and I'm going to place my first Dorito how I want it. Next, I'm going to hold down my Alt button and use my move tool to move another Dorito. What that does is it's duplicating it, basically. I moved the second Dorito, and also I created the second Dorito just by holding down the Alt button while I moved it. Now I can separately Command T this one, because really no two mountains are the same, so I shouldn't have them the same on my paper. Command T. I'm gonna Command T this one too, and this time I'm going to make it a wider, like a fat mountain, and I'm also going to tilt it a little bit. Okay, so now I'm gonna go back to my first one, and by the way, if I have my auto selected, it'll allow me to just grab whichever one I click on instead of having to deal with your layers area and choosing the layer that you want to work on before being able to pick it. I'm going to hold down Alt again to duplicate it. And I'm also going to duplicate the fat one again, except this time I'm going to Command T it and flip it over itself to make a new shaped mountain. Okay, so there's my, now I have mountains that go over that whole area. I'm going to double click or press return every time I want to close a transformation because it won't let you do anything else if you have a transformation open. So now I'm just moving these into place, and I already have my mountains done. So now I'm going to go and find my hills. By the way, I want to announce this publicly. If you do not use food at all in this assignment, I will give you 5 points extra credit if you complete it without using food, but still do a good job representing all of your parts of your landscape. The reason is that everybody does food, and I'm kind of sick of seeing food. I'd want to see something more original. So ditch the cloudy with a chance of meatballs idea and see if you can come up with something more your own. I'm going to think of something that's circular or wavy shaped now to be my hills. I'm going to pick a record. So I found myself a record that I like, and I'm going to drag it off. Alright, so this one is a little bit different. First of all, I realized that it's not in the layer that I want. I want this to appear in front of my mountains, so therefore I'm going to move it to the top. And then when it's there, it's also different in the way that now my magic wand's not going to work because I don't have a white background. The magic wand will only work if you have everything one color, because that's how it selects things. So if everything is one color, you'll be able to select the background and get rid of it. If things are multiple colors, you'll have to Command D that selection and go over to your eraser tool and just carefully erase everything you don't want in the piece. So, and I'm being careful not to leave little bits of it around here either, because that's going to come off my craftsmanship grade if I do, or part of my product grade, which is set aside for craftsmanship. Alright, so I'm doing kind of a quick job of this, but you should do yours carefully and make it look your best. You can also use your magnifying glass tool to zoom in. We're going to hold down, if it comes up with a minus, you're going to hold down Alt, which will allow you to go the other way. and then I can move it into place. So now you're saying, well, why leave all this other stuff? Well, I know, I'm going to press Command 0 so it goes to full size. I know that this is going to become covered by my ground, so that's why I'm not deleting these areas. I've done the top portion and that's all I need to do. Now when I held down Alt and move it, it's going to do the new copied version. I might have to do some cleanup on this. I could see that I left a little bit here, and I probably don't want to block my mountain, so I'm going to go down a little ways, and then I'm going to create another copy. Alright, now I may want to Command T these to make my hills a little bit different from each other, because no two hills are alike. But that's basically done for my hills. Now I'm going to get my ground. Okay, so I found some nice green cassettes that are going to represent my ground. Knowing that the shape is not going to give it away, I wanted to make it green so that it matches the ground. By the way, I'm going to stay away from pictures with things like this. These are called watermarks, and that's basically saying that the artist does not want to share it with you, which means it would be in violation of a copyright law to take that. I'm going to take this one, however, and drag it into my piece. And it looks like it's white enough that I might be able to get away with using the magic wand, so I'm going to try. I just had to use it like 5 times. Alright, Command D to deselect, and then I have my cassette, which I might even transform a little bit, and then use my duplication technique to fill up the ground. Okay, I might even go back and change some of these with Command T because I don't want them all going the same way. That's boring. Remember, every time you use Command T, you have to press either the return button or double click it when you're done with your transformation to set that transformation. Otherwise, if I were to go in and pick a new picture to bring in, it won't even let me do that because I have this open. And about 10 of you are going to make that mistake and not know what's going on. So hopefully if you watch the video, you will know. Command T. Alright, so there's the ground, and I promised that it would cover up this stuff, so I'm going to make sure it does. I don't want any of that garbage showing there. In fact, I might make it go even higher. Okay. So I might have to Alt-click another couple of these guys. I could bring some of these up in the layers if I want to make them go ahead. You'll see, by the way, that when you're Alt-clicking, it automatically puts them in a new layer when you're duplicating them. Alright, so next I would need my trees and maybe a path.